So, you want to build the absolute best Ventis. You've come to the right place. In this video, I am going to teach you how to make your Venti absolutely based. So this is a classic guide video. We're gonna quickly talk about how to use Venti's elemental skill, burst, depending on your team. We're gonna talk about his weapons, constellations, and of course, artifact. Now, keep in mind that I am an absolute whale. Now, don't worry, this video is gonna be whale-friendly, dolphin-friendly, and free-to-play friendly, otherwise known as normal people who are not in debt. Unlike me. Alright, we're gonna quickly talk about Venti's elemental skill. Now, you're gonna see on a lot of guides on YouTube, some are gonna tell you always use Venti's E without holding. Some others are gonna tell you only use his elemental skill while holding. My answer is it really depends on the situation. If you don't know, basically, when you hold his E, it does a lot more damage. 646% right now on level 9, but the cooldown is more than twice as long. If you're against one or two enemy, I say it's pretty good to just use the E, so you can use it again quickly. As you can see, the cooldown is pretty low. If you're surrounded by a lot of enemies and you hold your E, this is a great way to crowd control and absolutely decimate your surroundings. Man, did it really have to rain while I'm trying to record a video? So that's pretty much how I use it if I'm surrounded by a lot of enemies, or if I'm fairly certain that a hold will one-shot my enemies, I will just do it. As you can see, that's a lot of damage. Uh-oh. All right. Absolutely destroyed. Now, in this example, why would you ever hold? A lot of the guides tell you to hold there. I don't know why you would do that. Now, Venti's elemental burst, you probably know what it is, so we're gonna quickly go through it. It creates a black hole, an anemo vortex, if you will, that sucks in all enemies. Incredible for crowd control. And also, it will absorb the first element it comes into contact with, which is a great way to just decimate your enemies. For example, it's going to absorb pyro, as you can see, because I infused the first enemy with pyro. It is just insane. Another little bonus, it actually absorbs all the items as well, so you don't have to go get them. Venti is just amazing, bro. Now for the interesting stuff. Now, yes, I do have C6. I have C6 on almost every character I have. I know, I'm a whale, but don't worry, this will be free to play friendly. Venti's talents, very simple, no matter if you are free to play or an absolute omega whale like me. His normal attack, forget about it. We're not even gonna talk about it. It is completely worthless. It will be completely negligible damage-wise. Do not even up it. It is a waste of everything. As for his elemental burst and elemental skill, what you want to do usually is go for the elemental burst, up that one first, definitely, and then also go for the elemental skill. You can try to do both at the same time. It depends on your resources and playstyle. I personally did the elemental burst first and then went for the elemental skill because they are both incredible. And yes, I'm not done building my Venti. I just got Venti on the rerun banner that was here, and that's still here actually at the time of this video. And I cannot wait to crown my Venti. Now, this is probably more for the whales or maybe even dolphins that are extremely lucky. For his constellations, Venti is a character that doesn't necessarily need constellations. Venti is already a great character at C0. Now, his C1, some of you might be, hey, maybe I can try get the C1. It's pretty much useless, honestly. It just shoots 2 additional arrows that you will never use because, as we said previously, his normal attack is useless. As for the rest, of course, we're not going to count a C3 and C5. It's always the same. for his C2, C4, and C6. They are very good. The C4 being the best one, 25 animal damage bonus when you pick up an orb or particle. It is very good. The C6 is also incredible. But if you do have a C6, it changes your strategy slightly. We are going to quickly talk about that later for the whales out there. Oh boy, the weapons. Now this is a big topic, but we're gonna just quickly go through it. For me, it's very simple. Best slot if you want to deal that massive damage is clearly Skyward Harp, but this is not for everyone. If you have it, keep in mind that a R1 Skyward Harp would be better, in my opinion, than any other 4-star weapon. A lot of people have been talking about the new weapon Elegy for the end. Now, this weapon is not bad for a purely support Venti, but honestly, from what I've seen, it is still better to get Skyward Harp if you're going for a 5-star. It just is the best to deal more damage. If you don't know what Elegy for the End does, it basically increases your elemental mastery, and when you get the sigils, blah 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 blah, you get even more elemental mastery, and your attack is increased by a lot. I have an R4 right now, so it's 35%. And this is for all your party members. So I was thinking of actually using this weapon so I can switch out to my main, which is a C6 Diluc, but in the end went for Skyward Harp because I just deal more output damage. And also the stat energy recharge is kind of a waste, while here I get 22% crit rate. Now enough about 5 stars. I know not a lot of people can get their hands on 5 stars, especially refined ones. So for 4-star, for me, it's pretty simple. The best 4-star weapon here is the Stringlet. You get a lot of elemental mastery. The passive is absolutely great. Increases elemental skill and burst damage by 24% on R1. Clearly, for me, the best 4-star for Venti. And yes, guys, I don't want to hear it in the comments. Yes, I have a lot of weapons. Leave me alone. Now, if you don't have the Stringless, or you just don't want to use the Stringless, another great weapon, honestly, I'd say it's the second best 4-star for Venti, would be the Favonius Warbow. You get energy recharge, which is not necessarily the best, which is why I would go with the Stringless. However, the passive crit hits have a 60% chance to generate a small amount of elemental particles, or will generate 6 energy, blah, blah, blah. You get it. This is an energy recharge bow. Now, if you don't have a lot of energy recharge on your Venti, this can be very useful. But personally, my artifacts are really good. I don't need the extra energy recharge. I feel like it's a waste. So for most people, you would go with the string. But of course, the best in slot is the 3-star Raven. But yeah, I'm just kidding. Alrighty, now, here comes the interesting part. The artifacts. Oh boy. Now keep in mind, I have not finished building my artifacts, and honestly, in Genshin Impact, do you ever finish building your artifacts? 99% of the time, the answer to that will be no. You can almost always get better artifacts. But in my case, in my Venti, I got him recently, as I told you. So he is very well built. Just not as perfect as, for example, my Diluc. Diluc guide video coming right after this, by the way, because my Diluc is just absurdly strong. Now, clearly for Venti, the best set will be Verdescent. The Animo set, there's no question about it in my opinion. The 4-piece set bonus just gives you so much. It was made for Venti, actually. Increases swirl damage by 60% and decreases elemental res to the infused element by 40%. That is very similar to Venti C6, actually. So this is just great. Now, I've seen some people have a 2-set Verdescent to get the animal damage bonus, which is a must-have, and have the Noblesse for the burst damage bonus. That is a possible set. You can go with that if you're not interested in the 4-piece, but I don't really know why you wouldn't want it. If you're really not interested in the elemental res, I can get it. I've seen some people build a 2-set Verdescent and a 2-set Noblesse, but I honestly think this is the best by far. Now, there's a lot of discussion about if the substats are supposed to be crit damage or energy recharge. It's honestly, I've tested it. It is basically the same as most characters in the game. you usually want to go with crit damage and crit rate as substats on all of your artifacts. It just makes your Venti so strong. Sans, you want to go with attack percent. This one is not too bad. I have crit rate, good crit damage, and energy recharge. So this is a good Sans. I do always want to get better though. That's just who I am. Obviously, for your goblet, you want animal damage bonus main stat. Mine has crit damage, which is good, attack percent, which is good, and yeah, usually you want to avoid defense, guys. I mean, you probably know that. Circlet, you would want crit rate or crit damage. I prefer crit rate, which is what I got with a good crit damage substat, energy recharge, elemental mastery. This is a good circlet altogether. And obviously, no need to talk about the feather. You want crit rate and crit damage at the same time. You want both of them. Mine is pretty good. I do want better. Same with flower. Sadly, my flower is not that good. As you can see, my stats on my Venti, so my attack is at 2000, which is good. My crit rate is 81%, which is perfect. Usually you want to go with 80, and you don't really want to go above 80 because it is negligible after that, depending on the character. Crit damage, I am at 151%. It's good, not necessarily ideal. You usually want the double of your crit rate. I'm trying to hit 160 and even higher, but I need to grind a little bit more, dude. I need to grind. Energy recharge at 147 is very good. You usually don't need more on Venti. 150 on Venti is perfect. Now for how to use your Venti and ultimately talking about team composition. So let's get to it. So with everything you've seen on my Venti, the damage is pretty, it's pretty insane. Between 20 and 40k on my E. That's you have to keep in mind that I do have a C6 and I'm an absolute whale, but even as a free-to-play, you can get insane damage on your Venti. Now, this is an important thing you need to keep in mind for your Venti, and it can influence how you're gonna build here. Some people would tell you to infuse Venti's Q, Venti's ultimate, Elemental Burst, with the opposite element of your main DPS. So in my example, my main DPS is Diluc, which is a pyro character, so I would want to infuse Venti's ult with Hydro. For example, my Mona that I just started building, which is why she's level 70. Now, this is usually a good strat for a free-to-play, for example. This is usually a good strat if you don't have Constellations, as you will be proccing Vaporize with your main DPS in my example. However, seeing how, first of all, I have the full set Verdescent, I have a C6. However, in my case, if I infuse it with Pyro, because of my C6, my full set Verdescent, what's going to happen is that the enemy is going to have a decreased elemental resistance to Pyro, ultimately leading to my Diluc outputting so much more damage. Not only does it depend on your constellation, but also your playstyle, depending on what you want to do. If you want to decrease elemental resistance, or if you want to proc Vaporize, or anything else, depending on your team composition. Personally, I'm a fan of reducing elemental resistance, but both are acceptable strategies. But Hydro also works, as you can see. Right now, it's doing the Hydro, which means I would... Oh, wait, they're already dead. But in this case, I would be constantly giving them Hydro, which means when I'm hitting with my Diluc, I would be proccing Vaporize, getting that delicious 1.5 damage. But in my case, it's not worth it. As for team composition, there's not much to talk about, honestly. Venti is an amazing character that any team would be so lucky to have. Venti literally goes well with almost any team. Venti's great for exploration, amazing, the single best character in the game for crowd control. Not necessarily the strongest for bosses, but overall, no matter your team, if you find a spot for Venti, you will be thankful for him. Now that's probably it for the guide for our favorite femboy. He's just a great, amazing character altogether. If you build him correctly, not only are you going to deal incredible damage for a support character, but you will make your whole team much stronger. Now, I will see you for the next guide video, which will probably be for the strongest character in my opinion, especially when you're a whale, Diluc.